In this episode of A Pop of Culture, we will be discussing the Arielle Scarcella Cycle. Timestamps in the description.
Could somebody please make it make sense?
Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. I am the Esoteric and Facetious, and this is Pop of Culture, where I speak on pop culture, social justice, and the human experience from a black, bisexual, millennial perspective. Everything, and I mean everything I say, should be taken with a grain of salt, as I'm simply a college student with access to a recording device and the internet. With that being said, my age shouldn't be your sole reason to critique my views unless it's truly relevant. If you disagree with anything I say, let's have a civil conversation in the comment section below. Today we're going to be talking about what I call the Arielle Scarcella effect and the usefulness of reactionary content from leftist YouTubers regarding conservative content. So before we get into that video, I want to shout out my cover channel. I have a cover channel, Pop of Culture Sings, where I sing throwback R&B, contemporary R&B, pop music, whatever I'm feeling, whatever you're feeling. So if you want to be down like Brandy, if you're down with the click, and if you're not down with my RP Aaliyah, definitely feel free to check that channel out. It'll be linked in the cards, in the description, and it is at this time the only channel listed in my channel section. With that being said, let's get into the video. So who is Arielle Scarcella? Arielle Scarcella is a YouTuber who has amassed over 669,000 subscribers and over 189 million YouTube views. Arielle Scarcella is someone who identifies as a lesbian. She is a cisgender lesbian woman who has made a lot of viral content relating to her sexuality. But what Arielle Scarcella has been known for recently has been her videos that are related to transgender people, especially transgender women. And not only that, but her videos where she's announced that she is leaving the progressive left that has quote unquote taken it too far.
I'm Arielle. I'm a lesbian, and I don't think gender is a social construct. I don't think cis straight white men are evil. I don't believe that genital preferences are transphobic or that there are 97 genders. I don't think that male sex offenders belong in women's prisons. I don't think it's normal for people to be praised for walking around with shirts that say kill TERFs. I don't think like these people, and I no longer want to be associated with them. I've reached peak LGBT. This is my coming out video.
Hi, this is me in post. I wanted to add some commentary on my thoughts on Arielle's quote unquote coming out video. In the video, it appears that Arielle uses her identity as a lesbian as a way to, so just because she is a member of a marginalized group, that does not mean that just because she's in a marginalized group doesn't mean that she shares the popular viewpoints of that marginalized group. One of the things I find very interesting is she uses a lot of hyperbole. I don't believe cis-het white dudes are evil. When I say that Arielle is using hyperbole, I mean that she is using extreme exaggeration. Evil? Really? I believe that she is using extreme exaggeration in order to misrepresent the left's view of cisgender heterosexual white men. Arielle is likely using the word evil because it frames the left as irrational by insinuating leftists make judgments of large groups of people's character based on their identity alone, when many leftists are simply pointing out the already existing inequality in society. One of the things I think is so funny is the fact that she thinks it's so bold to say, well, I don't think that cisgender heterosexual white men are evil. It's like, do you not realize that there are several cisgender heterosexual white men who are leftist, who advocate for the things that you're against? They acknowledge their privilege and they use their privilege to amplify the voices of marginalized people. Arielle knows most critical thinking left-leaning people don't think that being a cisgender heterosexual white dude makes you evil. She knows that left-leaning people just understand that cisgender heterosexual white men are not going to have the same worries and concerns that other people of marginalized backgrounds and experiences are going to have. But she knows that the anti-SJW crowd gets very upset when people acknowledge that certain people can have privilege over other groups of people. She ignores the fact that several transgender people don't think that genital preferences are transphobic. She uses the 97 genders example as a way to make the left seem unreasonable, irrational, crazy. If you look at the list that she's showing, some of the things that are present are things like non-op or MTF. So these things are more likely classifications rather than distinctive genders. Someone who is MTF would be someone who would classify as female, that would just be a classification of female. Going on to the claim about quote-unquote male predators, in my opinion, this is one of the oldest tricks in the book. It is appealing to fear. What about the woman? What about the children? Of course, I don't think that female inmates should be people who are victims of assault. However, one of the things I find very interesting is when people like Arielle make arguments like this, they ignore the fact that predators are predators. If you're truly worried about the safety of women in prisons, wouldn't you be more worried about the cisgender female predators in women prisons? Because there's likely a larger portion of cisgender women who are S offenders in women's prisons who have the access to other cisgender women to offend than transgender women in these facilities. Of course, they're not mutually exclusive. Arielle Scarcella could care about protecting women in prisons from cisgender and transgender offenders who could potentially assault them. However, one of the things I find very interesting when I see people who are transphobic online is the fact that they will use any instance that they can of a transgender person acting in a way that negatively portrays the community. The problem with this is transgender people are not a monolith. A transgender person can do something bad, horrible, evil, and that deed is not indicative of how the community is as a whole. Just like if a black person were to cause harm or assault somebody right now, this minute as I record, that has no bearing on how I am as a person. She flashes these very alarming headlines. However, I question of the portion of transgender women who are in prisons, how many of these transgender women who are in prison because of assaulting people are there that offend in these female facilities? To clarify, there is no number of assaults that would make it okay. The reason why I would want statistics is to know, can it statistically be proven that transgender women who have previously assaulted women are more likely to assault women in prisons? Because the reality is you could make the same argument for any other crime. There are women who have murdered other women in those prisons, but we don't see an argument that cisgender women who have murdered other cisgender women should be removed from those prison facilities because they may offend and kill other cisgender women. Also, if transgender women should not be in women's facilities where they can potentially harm cis women, where are they supposed to go? Are you suggesting that they go to male facilities? The root of the argument of not allowing transgender women into women's prisons is the fact that they could potentially assault cis women. However, if you put transgender women into male facilities, then transgender women can also now become victims of assault from male prisoners. So if the goal of this conversation is to prevent people from getting assaulted, if you were to remove transgender women from these facilities, where would you put them? Maybe the alternate lifestyle unit, but where would you even draw the line as to where somebody is or isn't trans enough to be in a male unit? Lastly, it's funny to me that she talks about a person wearing a shirt saying kill TERFs when in the picture it says punch TERFs. I don't think that it's okay for people to cause physical harm to people who disagree with them politically. However, one of the things I find very interesting is she uses hyperbole when she says, well, I don't think every cisgender heterosexual white dude is evil. However, she can't accept the I punch TERF shirt as hyperbole. And this is why I can't take Arielle's video seriously. Regarding the shirt example that she uses, I want to reiterate that I'm calling it hyperbole because I feel like the shirt is an exaggeration. The shirt is not trying to get people to cause harm to TERFs. The shirt, in my opinion, is a comedic shirt that's meant to show, hey, I disapprove of TERFs, I can't stand TERFs, look what I did to a TERF with like this cartoonish red blood. Probably not the most pacifist message, but a message nonetheless. It's also interesting how Arielle just shows someone smiling while wearing the shirt, but doesn't show where anybody praised this woman for wearing the shirt. Would I buy and purchase the shirt? Probably not, but I also wouldn't make videos invalidating transgender and non-binary identities. If Arielle wants to make a video about why she is leaving the left, fine. But the problem is Arielle is intentionally misrepresenting the left in order to build an audience of anti-SJWs. She knows that anti-SJWs do not care about an accurate portrayal of the left because it's easier to just call people who are leftist snowflakes who cry about everything, who are too sensitive about everything. Giving a more nuanced perspective would take concessions. It wouldn't be as quick and feisty. Back to scheduled programming. So Arielle has gotten into a lot of trouble recently for misrepresenting Elliot Page, an actor who came out as a transgender male and insinuating that transgender males are actually just lesbian women who decided to transition because of internalized misogyny.
Response is basically this: if he is truly trans, good for him. There is still a huge issue at large, and that is, why are we losing all of our lesbians? Why are we not seeing this trend as frequently with gay men? I said this to Elliot on Twitter. Much respect for the Elliot Page for coming out as trans. I still wonder, though, where are all the lesbians going? Two things can be true at once. One, some people are actually trans. Two, some lesbians are internally misogynistic and want to be anything other than a woman.
Hi, it's me again in post. I just wanted to add some more commentary regarding this clip. One of the biggest issues I have with Arielle when it comes to the Elliot Page situation is the fact that Arielle decides to make Elliot Page's coming out into her own political move. One of the things that sticks out to me a lot is when Arielle uses the word if. If Elliot is truly trans, then great. As Elliot says in his coming out statement, it took him a lot of strength to come out, to accept himself, and to be himself. So for him to finally come out and have this moment of truth become tainted by Arielle's message of transphobia, in my opinion, is disgusting. Arielle could have tweeted about her alleged concern about the quote-unquote loss of lesbians at any given time. In fact, in her video, she mentions that she had already spoken on the topic at least 2 times in videos. But no, when she saw a public figure coming out as a trans man, she saw an opportunity and took it. Imagine being somebody who had to deal with realizing that you were trans, and imagine having to come to terms with that, and imagine being a public figure, especially being a public figure in something like acting, where you, in the roles you have, are things that are tied to the gender that you previously publicly identified as. In the moment that you get the strength to publicly share the information that you are trans, this beautiful moment is taken away by somebody who has an agenda to push. Going back to that word if, I wonder when Arielle came out if whoever she was talking to said, well, maybe you're not really a lesbian, maybe you're just going through a phase. If you're a lesbian, then I'll accept you. When people are telling the truth and being themselves, especially when it comes to these identities that can come with judgment and rejection, the last thing people need to hear is if or conditional acceptance. In fact, in a lot of guides that people have made about how to react when someone comes out to you, you are told to accept them and to make them know that you accept them. Because when people are being that vulnerable with you, the last thing you want them to do is doubt your support. Another major issue I have with Arielle Scarcella's coverage of the quote-unquote loss of lesbians is the conflation that I see from her with gender identity and sexuality. While some people who transition into men previously identify as lesbian, there are plenty of people who are assigned female at birth who identify as heterosexual who transition as well. There are plenty of heterosexual people who are assigned male at birth who transition and are still attracted to women when they transition. Not everybody who transitions is a lesbian or a gay man. Another thing too, as people go throughout life, they realize more and more about themselves. So if somebody previously identified as a lesbian and then they realize, oh shoot, I'm not a lesbian, I'm a trans man, that doesn't mean that a lesbian's lost. That just means that a trans man has uncovered his identity. People's identities are allowed to evolve. You don't have to be the same person you said you were yesterday. You can evolve and change over time. If anything, the lost lesbians are the lesbians who are in heterosexual relationships because they feel like they have to in order to fit in and to not be persecuted by society. Arielle, maybe you should do activist work to ensure that lesbians who feel like it's not okay to be lesbian and it's only okay for them to be in straight relationships, maybe do work in activism so that women who are in that situation don't feel that way, because trans men who were previously identifying as lesbian are not losing themselves. They are gaining themselves by existing as the people they are. And the situation is not just about Elliot. This situation is about all trans men. When Arielle makes these assertions about losing our lesbians, she is invalidating the identities of all of these trans men. They can't be trans men because that's how they've always felt and that's how they always felt they are. It has to be because of internalized misogyny. She's claiming to know intimate details of them in their mind that she doesn't. Now, let's make it clear, I do not support the ideologies of Arielle Scarcella. I believe that Arielle Scarcella's ideologies that she has shared in her YouTube videos strongly align with TERF rhetoric, which I do not support. If you do not know what TERFs are trans exclusionary radical feminists, who, according to Wikipedia, not citing it as a reliable source, but this is a well-written definition, espouse sentiments that reject the assertion that trans women are women, the exclusion of trans women from women's spaces, and the opposition to transgender rights legislation. So what is the Arielle Scarcella cycle? So here's the cycle that's been happening for pretty much, I would say, the second half of 2020. Arielle Scarcella makes a video where she expresses views that are not in line with leftist ideology. Of course, there's going to be a variation in what one person and another person view as leftist ideology, but viewpoints that Arielle has presented are viewpoints that are anti-trans, which would not fall under most people's view of leftist ideology, that are offensive to a lot of people. Then a bunch of progressive/leftist YouTubers make videos that are critiquing Arielle Scarcella's content and stating the ways in which it is problematic and harmful. Now, I myself identify as leftist. I identify as someone who is progressive, who wants to make the world a more equitable place where people of different identities, backgrounds, and experiences can have an equal chance at success and have access to the resources that they need to be successful and to survive. My concern comes from the fact that I sometimes question if reacting to Arielle Scarcella's content is giving her more attention. If you know anything about social media, you know that if you're not getting clicks, if you're not getting views, if people are not searching your name, then it's going to be very hard for you to generate AdSense revenue to, have the numbers that it may take you to get sponsorship, to get, affiliate links, affiliate codes, to generate income streams. Every time that Arielle Scarcella makes a video, I question. Cue dramatic music. And does this video get free promotion from leftist YouTubers who are responding to it? And does that free promotion give her more attention, which allows her to continue espousing problematic rhetoric that is harmful and damaging to people? Are these leftist content creators enabling her to continue to make this content by giving her more and more recognition each time she does it, which could in theory radicalize her or make her want to make even more videos and even more provocative videos, because that may give her the result that she wants? One of the things I want to bring up in this video is the idea of the greater good. The greater good. The argument I've been making so far is the idea that potentially reacting to Arielle Scarcella's videos could be giving her more attention and more traffic, which could propel her even further in the algorithm, which could propel her even further when it comes to getting engagement, because now maybe her videos, because people are clicking on them and watching them through, that's giving her watch time, that may be giving her audience retention. And even if people dislike, that could be giving her engagement, which could push her further into the algorithm and help her to grow. But if we look at this through a greater good mindset, cue happy music. Perhaps even though engaging with her content and debating her content and even disproving her content could be giving her more attention, in theory, there could be this idea of the greater good where by educating people on how Arielle Scarcella is wrong, even though that might be giving her more attention, it could also allow those who are following her to realize the error of her ways. However, let's bring up another point. While I agree with a lot of leftist YouTubers, one of the things that I personally will say as somebody who has multiple marginalized identities, when I finish, a long day at work or a long day at classes, the last thing that I'm trying to see is videos that are not affirming and videos that invalidate the experiences of members of my community. Can't wait to see that video about how Black people are lazy and LGBT people are crazy, right? Disclaimer, just because A, content makes me uncomfortable because of my identities and my experiences, B, just because content makes me uncomfortable because of the identities and experiences that I advocate for and act as an ally for, or C, because content makes other people uncomfortable because of their personal identities and their experiences or experiences and identities that they advocate for, doesn't mean that the content that content creators make reacting to problematic content is bad. However, one of the things I want some progressive commentators to think about is a lot of content creators who make these reactionary videos to problematic content are cisgender heterosexual white men. This doesn't mean that they aren't allowed to make reactionary content, but one of the things I want these people to understand is them reacting to a video that's calling for the death of LGBT people Now, of course, Arielle has never done a video on this topic, but this is just an example of one of the topics that I've seen people reacting to. It may not necessarily impact them on a mental health level in the same way. It might just be another video that they need to react to for their channel to help their channel grow and get views and get the reach and spread a positive message that is anti-homophobia. However, to their LGBT plus subscribers and followers watching this video, even though it's a video that's critiquing homophobic claims, could still be something that's very upsetting. And this is one of the limitations I feel when it comes to the greater good argument. The limitations of the greater good. Is it worth it educating the masses about why homophobia and transphobia are wrong if that means that you're constantly exposing your followers to homophobic and transphobic content? And one of the things that I think is interesting is a lot of times these people will have an audience of people of marginalized backgrounds, like people of color, LGBT people of color. And one of the concerns I get sometimes is, while I think the quote-unquote greater good of educating people is being accomplished when these content creators are making videos, I wonder if these content creators are worried about the impact that these videos, these constant reaction videos to people like Arielle Scarcella can do to, like, for example, let's say like their trans audience, you know, or even like their lesbian audience of people who don't want to see a TERF lesbian who is speaking for their community. Now, one of the things I will say is a lot of content creators who are in the LeftTube community will give trigger warnings, which I think is good. However, I question how useful trigger warnings are if the majority of your content is reacting to videos that invalidate certain people's identities and experiences. Sure, there's a trigger warning, but if every video that they're going to watch, or a majority of the videos that they're going to watch, are videos that invalidate their experience, even if they're through a reactionary lens, I don't know that a trigger warning is enough. Another chink in the armor of the greater good and or educational argument. While I definitely think there are a lot of people out there who are ignorant to homophobia and transphobia and why these things are wrong, I also think there are some people online and in the real world who know that being homophobic is wrong. They know that being transphobic is wrong, but even so are willfully ignorant. They may not share it at the water cooler at the office, but when they're in spaces where they feel like these opinions will not get them attacked or canceled, they'll feel free to share them. A common argument I see when it comes to people making progressive content on YouTube that is reactionary and or in response to problematic content is the fact that it is educational, is the fact that it is going to help to make more people more aware of the systems of power that disadvantage certain groups. However, a critique that I have of this type of content is when you look at people like Arielle Scarcella, a lot of the times the views that Arielle Scarcella shares in her videos are not moderate views. Going off the idea of Arielle not being moderate, one of the things I see a lot when it comes to the idea of the greater good in education is wanting to have these conversations so people can realize the error of their ways and become more inclusive, progressive, accepting, and things of that sort. However, the issue I have when it comes to people like Arielle Scarcella is, in my opinion, Arielle Scarcella is not a good conversation or video away from being an ally to trans and or non-binary people, and neither is her audience of anti-SJWs that's growing each and every month. She has received massive backlash after several of the uploads that she's made. However, instead of apologizing, she goes deeper and deeper and deeper into what she's doing. Videos she's posted recently are, there are only two genders. She's doing this to build a brand. Can't y'all see this? It's so obvious. And I bet you it's because some of that adult content is probably not monetizable anymore. So now she has to find other ways to generate views. And what's a way to generate views? Controversy. Something just tells me that please stop slapping women's vaginas, and transgender women shows lesbian her vagina are not necessarily advertiser friendly. But that's just a theory, a game theory. The thing that supports my theory is the fact that the male equivalent of Arielle Scarcella, David Wages, who uploaded gay videos that were similarly provocative, had to make a business of doing more adult content outside the platform. Looking at the Elliot Page situation, Arielle literally invalidates Elliot Page's identity and tries to make the assertion that the only reason that Elliot transitioned is because of internalized misogyny. This is not some type of misunderstanding. Arielle is willfully making assumptions about Elliot and his experiences in order to push a certain narrative. Thus, I question, if somebody's watching Arielle Scarcella, are they really looking for honest content and commentary about trans people, or are they looking for content that is going to negatively portray trans people in a way to make the left and progressive people look bad? Because if Arielle's content is solely there to market itself towards people who want to view the left in the worst light possible, as insane, as intolerable, then making logical and rational claims about her content isn't necessarily going to be helpful. Because in my opinion, if somebody really wanted to educate themselves about trans and non-binary topics, the last place they would be going is an Arielle Scarcella video. Now let's talk about money. Money, 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 money. On money. I have no issue with content creators receiving their share of the AdSense revenue that is generated by the monetized playbacks of their content on YouTube. However, one of the things I want to talk about is it makes me feel iffy, first and foremost, for people like Arielle Scarcella to generate revenue from her content, which in my opinion is hateful towards marginalized groups of people. But it also makes me uncomfortable to see people who are reacting to that content receiving payment for it. Because essentially some of the videos that Arielle makes, she's making hateful statements and or claims towards marginalized groups. So it makes me feel awkward or uncomfortable to see that she's making money from those things. She's profiting from that. And in the same way, it makes me feel uncomfortable to see leftist reactionary content creators receiving revenue from making content based on hateful content that could negatively be impacting their audience. To make matters even more questionable, reaction videos by leftist content creators that react to and address problematic viewpoints and content from content creators can tend to perform very well on the YouTube platform. Some reactionary leftists have their strongest or highest viewed and engaged content from reactionary content. So the concern that I get is, when Arielle Scarcella makes a video, do some leftist reactionary content creators get a thrill because, great, this is going to be a great way for my channel to grow? My concern is, would this potentially cause for some leftist reactionary content creators to value the amount of engagement that this content could give, and that could blindside them to the impact that this content could be having on their audience? Why do I think the Arielle Scarcella cycle is a problem? I believe the Arielle Scarcella cycle is a problem because I feel like we should not have to have somebody make problematic content about transgender or non-binary identities or any other marginalized group for us to have a conversation about that. It shouldn't be, okay, now Arielle Scarcella has made a video, so now we're going to talk about transgender and non-binary identities. And I'm not saying that people haven't made content unprovoked, but I think that some people will sit on their hands waiting for somebody to say something offensive about a group to then talk about the group. One YouTube content creator I've been watching for years, Seren Sensei, one of the things I love about her channel is she has a playlist called On Blank. And in that video playlist, she has topics like colorism, integration, a lot of different topics that she has went into revolving around, being a Black American, being a descendant of American chattel slavery. And one of the things I like about this is if a situation regarding colorism happens, she refers you to that playlist to watch that video. She's not becoming somebody who is becoming incentivized to make a video every time something racist or problematic happens. She can comment on things as she wishes, but her content is meant to educate about the topic. It's not meant to capitalize on the topic. If every time somebody makes a video about something, you're capitalizing on it for views and engagement, I question, is your goal to educate or to grow? And those are not mutually exclusive things. You can grow while educating. But if every second you can, you spend it finding videos that are causing harm to people and you're not acknowledging the harm that could cause to your audience, I think that you need to think a little bit deeper.
You better think about what you're saying. You better think about the consequences of your actions.
before you upload. Thanks so much for watching. Share your thoughts below. Like this video if you like this video. If you made it to this point in the video, comment a thumbs up emoji below or still here if you are still here. Subscribe if you want to see more, and make sure to hit that bell so you're the first to know when I upload new content. I upload new content every week. And if you're enjoying yourself, and why wouldn't you be enjoying yourself? To the left, there's a playlist of all my video essay podcasts. I have 24 and counting. In the center is a button to subscribe if you just haven't had a chance to subscribe and you would like to. And to the right is a playlist of all of my covers and parodies. So if you are wanting to check those out, feel free to do so. And if you want to support me, if you want to support the show, first and foremost, a non-financial way you can support is just through sharing this video. I can make the thumbnails, I can, make the titles, I can do the tags and do keyword research. One of the best ways that I can grow my brand is through y'all sharing this content with other people who like this type of content, because I nor you can control the algorithm, but I can control the quality of the content I make, and y'all can, if you enjoy the content, share with people who can like it, so that way, if y'all are feeling it, it's getting put out there, whether, the algorithm favors it or not. Somebody's gonna see it because you resonated with it and you resonated with me, and now you're sharing it with other people. So if that's a non-financial way you can support the channel, and if you do want to support the channel financially, my Cash App is linked in the description of this video. I'm trying to, upgrade my production quality and just, keep growing and expanding and, doing bigger and better. So if you want to help and support that vision, feel free to do so. All those who donate to the channel will be featured in the credits of all of my videos on both of my channels. Thanks so much for watching. Love you all. Bye-bye. See you next time.